Hi there, my name is Carly Shinatri, and I am the Director of Marketing and Sales at Wilderness Adventures. So, my goal today in this 20-minute webinar is just to review with you how to choose the right trip for your child. We have a lot of wonderful opportunities for kids who have finished fifth grade all the way through 12th grade, but it can be a little bit hard to sort through those and figure out what is the right trip, what's the right fit going to be, and how to ensure you're setting up your student for success. So we'll spend the next few minutes here going over a few different things you can look at when you're reviewing our programs to try and find that best fit. Okay, so why does trip fit matter? We want to make sure that every student who comes on Wilderness Adventures has a wonderful, successful, amazing experience. So finding that right fit really does matter in ensuring that amazing experience. The right fit leads to positive challenge. What we want to avoid is overwhelming a student, but actually providing with them with the right amount of challenge where they can grow into that challenge, where they can feel really successful. They can gain new skills and independence along the way without feeling that overwhelm, right? So finding that balance is super important, and also just fun. Every kid should have fun on our trip. They are meant to be enjoyable. They are, these are summer adventures in the wilderness with a bunch of peers and two really fun, amazing, cool trip leaders. So the recipe for success is there. So finding the right trip that provides your student with the activities that they're interested in, the challenge level that's appropriate for them, and the length of time that they're away from home are three really important and key ingredients to making sure that they have a great summer. So just quickly, let's think about how Wilderness Adventures designs our trips. We're going to be different than a residential summer camp that you might be used to, where there's a large group of campers that are coming together with a large group of staff and having meals in a dining hall and things like that. We're going to operate much differently with small groups. So our group size is between 8 and 13 students on each trip with two trip leaders. Really strong trip leader support for that group of students. These small groups are going to be based on age. Actually, grade is how we're going to display those on our website. You're going to see grade. Our grades do refer to a student's current grade. So the 25-26 school year is the grade you are going to select when you are looking at trips on the website. And then just that challenge. How can we provide progressive challenge that's appropriate and age appropriate for our students, but also provides kind of the next step for kiddos that are looking for that as well. Our small groups are for a couple of reasons. Just operationally, we do a lot of adventuring in national parks and national forests. So that is limited. The number of folks that can be in that group is limited by our permits to make sure those spaces stay wild, right? We're not going to travel with a huge group of 20 through a national park. We're going to be with a much smaller group, especially when we're in a backcountry travel situation. But additionally, we intentionally love small groups because it does provide for bonding. It provides for a really family-like feel within that small group. It allows for students to really get to know and support each other, and it allows for really hands-on support from our trip leaders as well to ensure that every student is having an amazing experience. So how our trips are structured, we're going to talk about front and backcountry experiences. We'll get a little bit more into that because that's going to be a really big indicator for you on what the trip is going to feel like and also the challenge level. Also that trip length, we're going to offer several different lengths. The shortest trip is going to be 7 days long. And then we do offer a gap semester program that's 42 days. So it's really big variation there on lengths available. And then we'll also talk a little bit about activities and terrain and sort of thinking about how activities might dictate the challenge level and what your child might enjoy and where they're going to feel the most supported and most excited about their summer experience. So to start off with front country versus backcountry. So on the left there, we're going to see a couple photos of a backcountry experience. Backcountry means we cannot access it by a vehicle. There is no road. It is only accessed by foot or sometimes by boat. We do backcountry sea kayaking as well. So these tend to be, sort of limited experiences on our programs. They're not going to be super long for the most part. There's always an exception. But, usually it's a handful of days where students are packing everything that they need into their large backpacking backpack. That's going to be food. It's going to be their gear, their clothing, their sleeping bag, their sleeping pad, all of that good stuff. And then they're going to head out, hike several miles, typically camp, set up camp, and then the next day break camp down and continue on that journey. Sometimes this is an out and back, sometimes it's a loop, depending on where we're traveling. But backcountry experiences are amazing. They do provide an increased level of challenge for sure. Backpacking can be a tough activity, but one that we find kids grow so much from. It also really helps to bond the group. Group 3 days later after coming out of the backcountry is going to be behaving and operating so much more sort of well together as that unit than they did before that trip. They really learn a lot about each other. They learn to work together. They learn problem solving skills. They support each other. It's a really neat thing to watch that transformation happen through backcountry experiences. On the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see some front country experience examples. So vans can drive right up to these campsites or these areas. On that far right photo, you will see a little trailer popping out there. That is our home base on Wilderness Adventures trips, a van and a trailer. So for a front country experience, you're going to be able to drive right up to that campground. You'll have all your things you need with you. Still can feel very rustic, as we see. It just, there could be more amenities in a front country experience. Things like running water, showers might exist, but they might not. It might still be a pit toilet situation on a front country experience, depending on the campground. But you definitely will have all of your belongings. Your cooking situation will be different. You'll have sort of a more advanced cooking setup than what you would take into the backcountry. That's going to be much smaller and lightweight. So those are two really important things to look at when you're reviewing an itinerary. A backcountry experience is, as I said, going to likely be more challenging. Also going to require a student to have a little bit more independence and resilience. So that growth opportunity definitely presents itself really naturally within the backcountry setting. Okay, so other things to look at here is total trip length. So as I mentioned, our shortest trip is 7 days, the longest is 42. Most trips are going to be 2 to 3 weeks. 14 to 21 days is kind of the average. We do suggest you think about your students' stamina and also potentially their inclination towards homesickness. We do find kids that are nervous about leaving home do actually tend to do better on a longer trip. A short trip, if you tend towards homesickness, you can kind of dig your heels in and just sort of count down the days and the moments until you get to go back home. A little bit of a longer trip experience will allow those students to really engage in the program, to commit to being there and to make the most of it. And we do tend to see that homesickness turn around, or that desire to go home turn around. And by the end, they feel such great success. And it's an amazing thing for that kid to have worked through that moment. So we do encourage you to think about those things. And again, find that balance between the challenge and the overwhelm. Find the balance that's right for your student, but just something to think about there with trip length. Also the length of backcountry sections. So we just talked about how backcountry sections do tend to bring more challenge level to a program, but we have all different lengths. So it could be a 1 or 2 night overnight. That is going to be really different than maybe a 10, 11, 12 day overnight section. So looking at that can be really helpful. The itinerary on the website, the activities will be listed, but then there will be a short little description of the itinerary that does include length. So you can kind of look at that and say, this is a 4 or 5 day backpacking section, and this other trip has a 2 or 3 backpacking section. So that can help you kind of determine which one of those seems like a better fit for your kiddo. And then also just understanding that we do work in recovery and rest days throughout every program. So we don't want the pace to be so fast that kids feel overwhelmed simply by that. We want to make sure that there's time for them to kick back, for them to relax, for them to, kick around at the river they're staying at, for them to just have some downtime together as a group. So that will be worked into every trip as well. So when you're looking at the website, we're going to have activities listed, and then also there's going to be some itinerary details. So again, looking at the things like backpacking, we also do backcountry sea kayaking. So that's another activity you might see as a backcountry overnight section. Checking out that number of nights in the backcountry and then the transition between sections. Know that you might look at that itinerary and say, gosh, there's only 15 days worth of activities, and this is a 21-day trip. That is because those extra days are going to be used for transition, whether that's traveling from one place to the next. Sometimes there's a day of driving involved. It also will be things like grocery shopping, like showers, like laundry. So know that those transition days are super important between sections to make sure the group is functioning well. And then we also have days for exploration. So if your group is going to be near a cool town, for example, Jackson Hole, we will build in a day for you guys to walk around the town, to get to visit some of the shops, to maybe go out for pizza, things like that. So we want to make sure we take advantage of those cool opportunities along the way. And they also are a great opportunity to reset. So first time versus experienced campers. We do have, a lot of kids that come to us and have never done this before, and that is okay. We are not, we do not require by any means experience doing the activities or things like that. What we do ask for is that students come in with a positive attitude and a willingness to try new things and make new friends. If you are bringing that with you to the trip, you are going to be successful. There's a great structure on every program. You will get a day-by-day itinerary after you sign up that really gives you a clear understanding of what to expect every day, which can just really help. And then also the reassurance of your trip leaders will be there with you 24/7. They are there to guide you through this experience. And in your small group setting of maybe 10 kids, they're really able to check in with students individually and also help intentionally structure the dynamic of the community on the program. So, kids walking away feeling like they've made a new best friend after just 2 weeks. It's a really special thing. And sometimes that happens naturally, and often it's helped along by the actions and the way that our trip leaders guide the program and guide the students through that program. So first time students are welcome, and it is absolutely not a rarity to be a first time student. We also have a lot of great experienced students that come, whether they've gone to a different summer camp or potentially just like to camp with their family. That's all wonderful. We also have a lot of kids do more than one Wilderness Adventures trip. So they might be returning for their second, third, fourth WA trip, which of course we love. There are a ton of opportunities for leadership for that experienced student. So there are going to be students on every trip that are new, and they're going to need help. They're going to need support. Even if it's little things like, how do I tie that knot again? Or how do I get my tent set up effectively? Or I've never lit a Whisper Life stove and it's given me trouble. Those are a little bit finicky. Having those older or those more experienced students around and available to help support, even in those sort of more those smaller moments throughout the day can be really helpful and impactful. And they'll also gain more autonomy, right? They already know how to do many of the activities or many of the sort of the business of camp life that they need to. And so they're able to do a lot of those things independently, kind of continue to hone those skills and grow those skills. Two common misconceptions I just like to point out. My child has to be an athlete. That's absolutely not true. Certainly being active is helpful because our trips are physically active programs, but you absolutely do not need to be an athlete. And first timers can't do longer trips. Also, certainly not true. We have students that will join us that are super enthusiastic and sign up for that 35-day Great Northwest. And they just know they want to be outside and they really want to have the chance to get really good at something. They really want the chance to feel comfortable camping. And that's not going to happen in the first couple of days. It's going to take a little bit of time. And so for them to have that ability to feel like an expert at the end of their program, whether that's 14 days or 21 days or 35 days, is a really amazing thing. So we encourage first timers to think about a longer trip, maybe push a little bit outside that comfort zone and be out there a little bit longer so that you have that chance to hone those skills. So how do we support our campers? We do have 2 trip leaders on every program. They are fantastic. They are absolutely a highlight of everything that WA does. They're just a really dynamic, unique, joyful, happy group of people. So they will be with you the entire time. They will meet you at the airport when you land. They will take you back to the airport when you fly home, and they're with you every moment in between. They are a ton of fun. They are really sort of the secret sauce to Wilderness Adventures. They bring the group together. They work really hard to create that community and to support every kid, because every kid will face a challenge on the program. So trip leaders are definitely kind of the number one piece of that. Also, we are technology free. So there are not check-ins with parents and kids during the summer. That's not something that we do. But we do have, our trip leaders, of course, have emergency communication devices if they ever need them. But also, there's many times they'll be driving through a town. They're going to stop to get gas. They're going to call our office. They're going to check in. If anything comes up with a student, if they have any questions or concerns, we work together as a team to address those. And we might bring a parent or a family member into that conversation as well, depending on kind of what's going on. So those ongoing check-ins are super helpful just to work with a larger team to support every student. And then also just clear expectations. So we do have students sign our trip expectations and rules before they come on our program. And then we work through a community contract on the first night of the program. The whole group does that together, just to make sure we're all clear on rules and boundaries and making sure that everybody is set up for a successful time. Okay, so now taking a quick look at our adventure groups overview. So these are how our groups are split by grade. As I mentioned, the grades listed here refer to a student's 2025-26 school grade. So the grade they are going to finish right before the summer, that is the trip group that they would want to sign up for. So we start out with our gap semester programs. Those are for our oldest kids that are 18 and older. Then we have our High Trails group. That is our high school group. Then Explorer and Pathfinder is going to cover our middle school, 6th to 8th grade. The Explorer trips are going to be a little bit more challenging, so that's just for our 7th and 8th graders, but we bring our 6th graders in for that Pathfinder age group. And then our Discovery kids are our youngest students. Those are the kiddos that have finished 5th and 6th grade. So if you are looking for something else, if this all sounds great, but you're not sure your student is ready for it quite yet, that's no problem. I do want to mention Wilderness Adventures also runs 3 other camps. We have Camp New Fork, which is our residential summer camp down in Cora, Wyoming. And that is open to kids that have finished 2nd grade through 7th grade. And then Base Camp and MOLA are our day camp programs. Base Camp is in Jackson Hole and MOLA is in Missoula, Montana. Okay, so if you're still feeling unsure, this all sounds great, but my goodness, there's so many options and I just don't know what to do next. I encourage you to pick up the phone and give our team a call. We are standing by ready and excited to talk to families and to work closely with you to match your kiddo to the right trip. We can help guide you on that placement. We can answer questions for you. We can provide references for you of either kids that have done a specific trip that maybe you're considering or kids that maybe are from your area. So maybe that's just a nice connection to be able to make locally if you know somebody in your area that's attended Wilderness Adventures. So please call us or send us an email. We try to be really quick and responsive and super helpful in any way that we can be as you work to put together your summer plans. So key takeaways and next steps. The key takeaways: fit matters more than experience. So making sure we're combining the challenge level, the activities, and the trip length. Bringing those 3 pieces together to find that trip is more important than thinking about how much experience your kiddo has. Recognizing that growth comes through challenge. That is what we are all about, is providing the fun and the silliness and the laughing and the s'mores and the singing, but also providing kids with an opportunity in a really supportive space to try something new, to push that comfort zone a little bit, and to really show themselves what they can do, right? Build that self-confidence, walk away from that trip standing a little bit taller. And just knowing support is always present. Right now, that support is in the form of our office team, who is here and ready to work with you in any way that we can. In the summer, that support, our office team is obviously still available, but then we have those trip leaders on the ground with students who are providing that real hands-on support throughout every moment of the program. So thank you so much for joining today. I hope this was helpful. We look forward to hearing from you. And as always, we encourage you to do something wild.